The House will come to order. This morning, the morning pledge will be said by Prescott Aparad from the International School of Denver in Denver, Colorado, guest of Representative Hansen. Go for it.
Please join me in the pledge. Oh my God. Yes.
Mr. Randall, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt, Baisley, Beckman,
Hold on. Dude, who put this here? Who put this here? Javon. Wow, man. Wow, man. I'm about to go
Excused.
Benavides. Bird. Bockenfeld. Buckner. Quintale. Caraveo. Carver. Catlin. Coleman. Cutter. Duran. Escar. Exum. Froelich. Kalinda. Garnett. Representative Garnett. There he is. Geithner. Gonzalez Gutierrez. Gray. Hanson. Harrod. Putin. Humphrey. Jackson. Marquez Lewis. Kennedy. Kip. Kraftharp. Landgraf. Landgraf. Larson. Lewis. Liston. Lontine. McCluskey.
Yeah, that was like,
McKean. McLaughlin. McLaughlin.
Excused.
Melton. Melton. Michael Cincinnati. Mollica. Neville. Pelton. Ransom. Rich. Roberts. Sane. Sane.
Excused.
Sandridge. Singer. Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Sullivan. Tipper. Tutone. Valdez A. Valdez D. Van Winkle. Weissman. Will. Williams. Wilson.
Excused.
Madam Speaker.
I was such a brain It's a Chinese enough. Watch Star Trek, March Madness. Although I'm like telling you, I really lost my games. Yeah, yeah, we get the upset. That very
With 61 present, we have a quorum. Representative Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to be with you today on this lovely Friday.
It's an honor to be with you today as well, Representative.
It's Friday. It's Friday, members. Let's all have gratitude. Make each day of the week like Friday, and your life will take on new enthusiasm. Madam Speaker, I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, March 21st, 2019 be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion. Is there Representative McKean?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, I think it's time we have discussion on this. We have been coming up here every day. We've been approving this journal without thinking about it. What does that say about how we do our jobs? Who knows what's in this journal? Who knows what's here, written therein? I urge and I vote.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion passes. Announcements and introductions. Any announcements and introductions? That's just fine. We can do it all at the end. Then the next order of business is Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's an honor to serve with you on this great Friday.
You as well.
I just want to give a shout out to the Small Business Development Center down on the first floor. If you have not had a chance, please go down, visit with all the entrepreneurs and small businesses from all over the state of Colorado, and thank them for being here. Thank you.
Representative Landgraf.
I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, to delay the process, but I have the ode to the maybe I should wait. Ode to the found bill. My bill was found hiding in the lobby. It was lost for sure in the noisy mobby. It's mental health, one of 3 co-sponsors it needs. Please come see me.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez. And the Latino caucus, it looks like.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a tribute today, and we ask that it be read out loud.
The House of Representatives convened in the 72nd General Assembly hereby extends sincere commendations to the West Side Blowouts 50th anniversary. On March 20th of 1969, more than 300 Chicano and Chicana students at Denver's West High School and surrounding areas walked out of their classrooms in protest of the institutional racism and discrimination in their school. The civil rights demonstration was one of the largest student protests in the history of the state of Colorado and inspired more than 1,200 students from other Denver junior high and high schools to walk out in solidarity with West High School. These events led to the first ever Chicano Youth Liberation Conference held by the Crusade for Justice, where nearly 1,500 young Chicanos and Chicanas from across the country gathered to discuss widespread oppression, discrimination, and injustice. Because of the seminal contributions made by participants of the West High School blowouts, the Chicano civil rights movement was able to advance its fight for justice for the betterment of the great state of Colorado and the nation at large. The members of the Colorado House of Representatives recognized the 50th anniversary of the West High School blowouts and the first National Chicano Youth Liberation Conference in Denver. On request of Representatives Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez and Alex Valdez, given this 22nd day of March 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please be seated, members. Thank you. Members, March 20th, 2019 marks the 50th anniversary of the West High School blowouts, a piece of Colorado history that is rarely to almost never mentioned in our schools. Although it had an impact nationwide, leading to the first National Chicano Youth Liberation Conference just weeks later, and it was the first time that a generation of Mexican-American youth gathered on a larger scale, over 1,500 students, to discuss common issues of oppression, discrimination, and injustice. On March 20th, 1969, there were over 300 protesters led by students Jeannie Perez, Priscilla Martinez, and the Crusade for Justice. And the next day, on March 21st, over 1,200 students across the metro area walked out in solidarity. This historic event was one of the largest student protests, and it is also personal to me, as several of my family members not only participated in these protests, but helped organize the efforts standing up for justice and against oppression and discrimination faced not only by these students, but by many others across the city of Denver and the state of Colorado. This is personal also because my grandfather, the late Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez, led the Crusade for Justice in the 60s, an organization committed to educating young people of their history, fighting for justice and equality for all marginalized communities. They were there to stand with these students. Unfortunately, there's several of my family members who could not be here. Many of them were feeling under the weather. I do have some folks here, but a couple of other people that were key in this were Jeannie Perez and Priscilla Martinez, that were current students at West High School. And I was able to actually catch up with Jeannie, and I invited her today, but she was unable to make it. And so I asked her if there was anything she would like me to share with all of you today. And she told me, Hita, we wanted to be treated better, but we did not want anyone to get hurt. She was speaking of the violence that occurred as protesters were met by police in riot gear, and students were hit with police batons and sprayed with tear gas, some of those being as young as 5 and 8 years old, who happen to also be my parents. We want to show our appreciation today and recognize for those that came before us, those that fought so that we can be here standing before you today as Colorado state representatives with the most Latino members in the history of Colorado.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. It is an honor to rise today to commemorate this event and its impact on the future, or what is the now, here in Colorado. When these students had enough, they took to the streets. They left the building. One teacher had started off a movement that has given birth to change, and this is what change looks like because of the Chicano movement. So I rise today so proud to be the representative of the West High School Cowboys, and so proud to stand beside this great group of people who would not be here today if those students did not walk out that day, walk down to the middle school, get more people, and make their voices heard, and let people know that our voices are important and the things that we have to say should be heard. Thank you very much.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Yes, and so I would just like to recognize some people that were able to join us here today. My parents, Joaquin and Trudy Gonzalez, and DPS Superintendent Susana Cordova and her mother, and Susana was a DPS student at the time. Dr. Ramon de Castillo, who is a current teacher at Metro State University. And author Anthony Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you, members, and thank you everyone for being here today. Are there any other announcements or introductions? Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I have a moment of personal privilege?
A moment of personal privilege is granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate it. Members, I just wanted to take a brief moment to talk about the gentleman you see on the screen here. You probably saw in the news this past weekend a CDOT worker was killed while he was on duty working for the Department of Transportation in my district. And this is Eric Hill, who will be laid to rest tomorrow after a procession from CDOT and the State Patrol. Eric grew up in Gypsum, Colorado, right in Eagle County. He spent almost his entire life there, except for the 6 years he served in the Air Force. He spent 16 years as a wildland firefighter and as a volunteer firefighter with Gypsum Fire, and worked for our Department of Transportation. And that's how he lost his life on Saturday night, tending to our roads and trying to keep our public safe. He leaves behind his wife, Sissy, 2 adult sons, and a 10-year-old son, Brody. Unfortunately, we have to come down here a lot to recognize our law enforcement officers who lose their lives in the line of duty, but I also just want to point out that there's other people in our state that put their lives at risk trying to keep the public safe. That includes our CDOT workers. So tomorrow, Mr. Hill will be laid to rest, and I just wanted to publicly thank him for his service to our state and especially to our local community in Eagle County, and would ask for a brief moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any other announcements or introductions? The next order of business is third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 14.
Senate Bill 14 by Senator Quorum, also Representatives Carver and Tibber, concerning requirements that secondhand dealers record transactions involving store value cards.
Representative Carver. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 14 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request permission to offer a third reading amendment.
Please describe the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a minor modification to the penalty aspect of the bill. It is just to provide some clarification as well as to make sure that we are treating the registration, the duty to register, and the penalty for registering store value cards in the same way as we are treating other items. And in the current statute, there was a $30 value for some of the other items, and we did have this be a discussion in committee that we wanted to work on, and would ask the body's permission to take care of that in third reading.
The question before the House is Representative Carver's request for permission to offer third reading amendment to Senate Bill 14. Is there any discussion, additional discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote.
I guess we should vote.
Sandridge, Humphrey, Ransom. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, permission is granted. The question before the House is the passage of Representative Carver's amendment to Senate Bill 14 on third reading. Is there any further discussion of the amendment? Representative Tipper. Go ahead. You can go.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to say, so this has been kind of a labor of Love, I guess, kind of working to narrow this bill in a way that addresses some of the concerns that law enforcement had. In short, what this bill does is it says, right now there are issues with some organized theft schemes where folks are stealing gift cards and then selling them for cash. So what this does is it requires secondary retailers, so think mostly pawnbrokers, to record the purchase of those gift cards, which they have to do for items over $30. And to record the sale, again, for items over $30. So we're just keeping it in line with the statute, making it clear that it has to be gift cards, and the aggregate amount of those gift cards has to be $30. So we're not creating a new crime, but we're just ensuring that law enforcement has an additional tool that they can track these gift card purchases, fraudulent purchases and sales. Thank you. And I urge support for the amendment and the bill.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I would urge an aye vote on this amendment. We had a lengthy discussion with the sponsors. We appreciate both of them being willing to negotiate and compromise. This does make the bill better. It's still not, in my opinion, a great solution to this, but being able to record those transactions and make that a petty offense, I think, is much better for those small business owners and those individuals who are just really trying to make a living at different venues like flea markets and such, is a good thing. And so, again, I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Representative Carver's amendment to Senate Bill 14. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Hanson, please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excuse, the amendment to Senate Bill 14 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 14 as amended on third reading and final passage.
The question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 14 as amended on third reading and final passage. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 14 is passed as amended. Mr. Rand, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1174.
House Bill 1174 by Representatives Eskar and Catlin, all Senators Gardner and Pedersen, considering out-of-network health care services provided to cover persons in connection with making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1174 on third reading and final passage.
The question before the House is the passage of House Bill 1174 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Soper, Van Winkle, Sandridge. Please close the machine. With 60 aye votes and 4 no votes and 1 excused, House Bill 1174 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1225.
House Bill 1225 by Representatives Harrod and Soper, all Senators Lundin and Lee, concerning prohibiting the use of monetary bail for certain levels of offenses except in certain circumstances.
You're throwing me off, Majority Leader Garnett. You're on the other. Whoa.
Bipartisan.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1225 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1225 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Buck. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, House Bill 1225 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1208.
House Bill 1208 by Representative Singer and Landgraf, Senators Fields and Gardner, concerning the designation of physical therapists as healthcare providers for the purpose of ensuring compliance with the required head trauma guidelines and organized youth athletic activities.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1208 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1208 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 excused, House Bill 1208 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 152.
Senate Bill 152 by Senator Williams, also Representatives Duran and Arndt, concerning the continuation of the Public Safety Communications Subcommittee in connection with implementing the recommendations contained in the 2018 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 152 on third reading and final passage.
The question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 152 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Bachenfeld, Kraft-Tharp, Sandridge. Please close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 9 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 152 is passed. Co-sponsors. Chris, who's in the chair? Who? Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 151.
Senate Bill 151 by Senator Bridges, also Representative Exum, concerning the continuation of the Emergency Planning Subcommittee in connection with implementing the recommendations contained in the 2018 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 151 on third reading and final passage.
The question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 151 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Mullica. Please close the machine. With 60 aye votes, 4 no votes, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 161 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1087.
House Bill 1087, Representative Soper and Hanson, House Senators Woodward and Bridges, concerning the online notice and public meetings of a local governmental entity.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1087 on third reading and final passage.
The question before the House is the passage of House Bill 1087 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Please close the machine. With 59 aye votes and 5 no votes, 1 excused, House Bill 1087 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1221.
House Bill 1221, Representatives Coleman and Valdez A, House Senators Bridges and Pedersen, concerning the regulation of electric scooters.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1221 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request permission to offer a third reading amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, the Humphrey Amendment. This is a clarifying amendment that ensures the enforcement of this bill only pertains to individuals riding on a scooter powered by an electric motor at the time of use, and we ask for an aye vote. Oh, we ask for it.
Representative Valdez.
We ask for an aye vote.
The question before the House is Representative Coleman's request for permission to offer a third reading amendment to House Bill 1221. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 excused, permission for a third reading amendment is granted. The question before the House is the passage of Representative Coleman's amendment to House Bill 1221. Is there any discussion? Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote your conscience. It's a good amendment. Vote yes.
Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. If you'd only listened. Like, if you'd only listened, and then, you know, like we did the amendment yesterday, then we did a cow. I mean, like, and then we got to come back today and do it again. If you'd only listened.
You're right, you're right. And he never moved the amendment. I apologize. Majority Leader Garnett.
You want me to move it or you want to move it? I move Amendment L006. I'd also like to point out that I voted for the cow amendment yesterday. So, Representative Humphrey, I was with you yesterday. I'll be with you today.
The question before the House is the passage of Representative Coleman's amendment on third reading. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Benavidez. With 64 aye votes. Oh, please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, Representative Coleman's third reading amendment to House Bill 1221 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1221 as amended.
The question before Representative Melton.
I was gonna take it out. That's Coleman. We'll try this again.
Representative Melton.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And now that the bill has been corrected, I'm happy that Coleman's name can come off the dais. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? The question before the House is the passage of House Bill 1221 as amended. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Representatives Soper. Please close the machine. With 47 aye votes, 17 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1221 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Representative Exum. Where are you? You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Exum will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for the reading of the bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon the motion of the majority leader, and the coat rule is not relaxed because it's Friday. Just kidding. Coat rule is relaxed. Assistant Majority Leader, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 88 until the end of the second reading calendar.
Senate Bill 88 will be laid over as requested by the Assistant Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1196.
House Bill 1196, Representatives Gonzalez Gutierrez of Senator Moreno concerning student financial assistance for students who are classified as in-state students for tuition purposes.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 1196. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1196 is a bill to include all who are eligible for in-state tuition to also be eligible for state financial aid. Asset Advancing Students for a Strong Tomorrow currently allows eligible students to pay in-state tuition at Colorado's public colleges and universities. We heard testimony from Asset students and heard of the barriers that they are facing when trying to obtain their degrees, which oftentimes is taking twice as long as other students that either have the means to fund their education or are provided the assistance needed. This bill makes higher education more affordable to students and their families in Colorado. I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1196? Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I asked for a no vote on this bill, and the reason is we just need to protect our taxpayers. Yes, of course, this would be a benefit to folks who are in-state undocumented. However, every time I think of adding more tax burden to folks, I think of a friend of mine named Carolyn. I won't use her last name, but I think of her every time that we talk about increasing the tax burden. Carolyn is a single African-American mom in Highlands Ranch who struggles to get by, and this transfers the burden from families who are trying to make it in America undocumented to families who are struggling to cover their own children's food and wherewithal. So this is an unfair bill to citizens, and I ask for a no vote.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to let the members know that this is not taking away from our taxpayers. In fact, our undocumented immigrants and immigrants in general are contributing up to $1.7 million as part of taxes. So they're also paying taxes that would be contributing to our state financial aid means. And so I just want to reiterate the fact that this is not taking away from anyone. This is simply saying that the same students that are receiving in-state tuition are eligible as any other student that is receiving in-state tuition.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your rescinding your ruling on the coat rule this morning so that you could stay up there as the chair today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Colleagues, I was a no vote on this. I've been supportive of the asset program throughout that process, and this goes one step beyond that, because once the students qualify for the asset program, they qualify for the COF program, which is College Opportunity Fund, which is that opportunity to go to college and have access to that particular funding. This gives those students access to the in-state funding. So consequently, there's an inequity there that's going to be more students qualifying for less money. And I know that the proponents of the bill say, well, there's going to be more money next year, but it's still diluting that pool for scholarships. And therefore, I was a no vote on that. And I think you should carefully consider that this is not the same thing as the COF fund. This is actually access to the in-state tuition dollars.
Thank you, Representative Wilson. Representative Van Winkle. Representative Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I heard this bill in committee, and again, folks, We know that there is an immigration issue, and that's at the federal level. And we know that we're not doing all that we should be doing to encouraging people that want to become United States citizens. But whether you agreed with the asset bill back in 2013 or not, honestly, we're not helping them when we still don't have a way to provide jobs for people that are still here illegally. So it's a catch-22, and I still feel that we're not doing enough for the ones that are here legally. I'm also would like to ask the sponsor why there isn't any appropriations or in this bill.
Representative Benavides. Any further discussion on House Bill 1196? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1196. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. House Bill 1196 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1238.
House Bill 1238, Representatives Gray and Van Winkle, Listeners Winter and Perilla, concerning the authority of the Division of Housing to regulate factory-built structures.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1238.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House Bill 1238 is a bill that's going to help take some restrictive parts out of our statutes that are stopping businesses that should be in Colorado from being able to operate the way they should. The primary focus of the bill says that manufactured homes and buildings in the state of Colorado that are going to be placed in other states don't need to meet Colorado building requirements. They need to meet the requirements of the other states they're going into, which is what they're going to need to comply with no matter what when they're placed in service. Right now, our law would require them to meet both states' codes, which is unnecessarily expensive, unnecessarily restrictive, and has literally led to zero manufacturing of homes in the state right now, as we heard in committee. And so in order to try to bring those jobs and that economic activity back in the state, I'd ask for a yes vote.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, members, this bill boils down to a very simple phrase. It removes a harmful barrier that has pushed good jobs out of the great state of Colorado. Again, this bill removes a harmful barrier that has pushed good jobs out of our state so that those good jobs can come back to our state. I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1238? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1238. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. House Bill 1238 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 31.
Senate Bill 31 by Senator Gardner, also Representatives Lanteen and Liston, concerning the composition of the Child Welfare Allocations Committee.
The gentleman from El Paso County, Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move Senate Bill 31, and there was no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what this bill does is to make sure that at least 2 members of what's called the CWAC, which stands for the Child Welfare Allocations Committee, that at least 2 members from the 2 largest counties are represented on the committee. The 2 largest counties are El Paso County and Denver counties. And what this would do, each county would be assured of having a member on the CWAC. The bill also allows for 2 non-voting board members to bring in additional expertise and good competent representation to the CWAC. This is an excellent bill. It passed out of committee 11-0, and there was no fiscal note. We asked for an aye vote.
Representative Lanteen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for a refresher, members, the Child Welfare Allocation Committee is a 13-member committee that provides input to the Executive Director of DHS on the allocation of child welfare services to counties. And so with this bill, we just get an additional 2 members, but they are non-voting. And I ask for your support.
Is there any further? Representative Liston.
Members, this is landmark legislation. We encourage an aye vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 31? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 31. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 31 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 76.
Senate Bill 76 by Senator Scott, House of Representatives Rich and Valdez D, concerning the procurement of consulting engineer services for Department of Transportation construction projects.
Representative Donald Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you. I move Senate Bill 76 and the Transportation Committee report.
Honor to serve with you. To the bill, or to the Transportation and Local Government report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We added a technical amendment on the bill to increase the sunset revision report date.
Is there any further discussion on the Transportation and Local Government Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The Transportation and Local Government report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 76 would create a study as to what works best, whether changing current practice with regard to CDOT contracting with an outside engineer that currently bills by the hour, or to contracting with an outside engineer that is a fixed bid amount. Presently, Colorado pays engineers by the hour, yet we pay construction jobs based on fixed bids. Since the construction contracts are paid based on a fixed bid, contractors are incentivized to finish as quickly as possible, because if the job lasts longer than anticipated, the contractor takes the hit. Legislative Services provided a report concerning the costs associated with engineer contracts, not only in Colorado, but in surrounding states. In Colorado last year, $210 million plus was spent, and in Oklahoma, $98 million was spent, and in Arizona, $78 million plus was spent. These states are similar in population and vehicle lane miles. Senate Bill 76 would require the Efficiency and Accountability Committee of CDOT to study and report to the Executive Director of CDOT and the Transportation Committee its findings and recommendations regarding specific issues relating to consulting engineer contracts for CDOT projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rich. Representative Donald Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a good bill. Vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 76? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 76. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Thank you. Senate Bill 76 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1078.
Just gonna be like what she said.
I'm sorry. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 88.
Senate Bill 88 by Senator Gardner, House of Representatives Tipper and McKean, concerning the adoption of the revised Uniform Unclaimed Property Act.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 88 and the Business Affairs and Labor Report.
To the committee report. Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, this is sort of a modernization of the Unclaimed Property Act here in Colorado. It has been a tremendous stakeholding process up until 2 minutes ago. But essentially, the amendments that came out of the committee were to include local governments in the Unclaimed Property Act in sort of a middle of the road compromise, which would say you have to hold property for 5 years. You can't turn it over to your own ownership, and you have to share information about what unclaimed property you are holding to the Secretary of State. So they're not turning it over to the Secretary of State, as all other holders are required to do. They are exempted if they have an ordinance dealing with unclaimed property, but they do have to hold on to that property for 5 years. And the significance of that is we have some local governments that hold property for 60 days and then turn it over to ownership of the local government. In other words, it reverts to their general fund. At the state level, that never happens. It's always held in custody for an individual or an heir to come and claim that property. So that is the main amendment. Were there any other ones? And would ask an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Business and Labor Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Business Affairs and Labor Report to Senate Bill 88. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Folks, this is the Give People Their Money Back bill. And it is not only give people their money back, but it is give them access to find out where their money is. And that truly is the nature of what I think is so good about this bill, is that it requires reporting across the state to the Great Payback Colorado, Great Colorado Payback. People can look up by name, they can see what entity holds the funds that are due them, and they can go about getting it back.
Representative Tipper.
Members, I would encourage you to go on this website. I have a very happy constituent, also happens to be my husband, because we went on the website and not only did he have unclaimed property, his father had unclaimed property and his grandmother had unclaimed property. So this, as Representative McKean said, is really just about, in this day and age, it's reasonable to expect people to go to one place to search a name and find out whether or not there's unclaimed property that belongs to them. That's what this bill does. Ask for a yes vote on this bill.
Thank you. I had Representative Sandridge first.
Fat cat. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was the sole no on this bill. The reason I voted no is because I actually wanted more time to look into a few things. I looked into a few things, and I'm a yes now. This is a great compromise bill. It doesn't make everybody happy. So I think the two sponsors did a great job in communicating with the different stakeholders and working out an agreement, a balanced agreement. So hopefully you'll support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Balkenfeld.
Thank you, Representative Exum. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you, sir.
I'm a yes on this bill. I wasn't initially a yes on the bill, and I want to recognize the work that was done by Representative Tipper and McKean to make this bill work for everybody, the citizens who needed transparency to know that there was money out there owed to them. And so I'm going to, again, ask you for a yes vote. Did yeoman's work on this bill, and we need to move forward.
Thank you. Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you, sir.
To the sponsors of the bill, I was reading through this 105-page behemoth, casually reading through it last night, and on page 91, I have a question. If you all could explain to me 38-13-1407, the security breach. I was a little confused on that. So I was just wondering if you could explain that to me. So no, you don't have to. That's all right. I realize that that this was. I tried. I quit. I quit at page 2.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It deals with security breaches.
Okay, all right, I'll take that as an answer. But no, in all seriousness, members, I had a couple of constituents last year that I can speak with some authority about this, about people getting their money back. I had a constituent when I was on the campaign trail, no less, that had a real question about this. Make a long story short, I was able to help them, and there is real money and real property at the end of the rainbow. So I'm sure the sponsors have worked long and hard on this. Anybody who read this bill would know that. I have read almost all of it, so I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 88? Seeing none, the question before us is adoption of Senate Bill 88. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 88 is adopted. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice work today, everybody. That was very efficient. I move the committee rise and report.
Thank you. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
I was going to have him read this bill and then go.
House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee of the whole begs leave to report as Secretary to follow House bills being secondary with expired regulations thereon. House Bill 1196 and House Bill 1238 passed through gross place counter for third and final passage. Senate Bill 31 and Senate Bill 76 as amended. Senate Bill 80 is amended passed through revised place counter for third and final passage.
Representative Exum. You have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before the House is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Buck, Catlin, Humphrey, Landgraf, Larson, Melton, and Sandridge. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 12 no votes, and 1 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. The next order of business is Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1078.
House Bill 1078 by Representative Lewis, all Senators Marble and Garcia, concerning a requirement the consent of the owner of real property be obtained before the property may be listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Representative Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. I move to concur with the Senate amendments on House Bill 1078.
Please explain the changes.
The change is just a deletion of one word, so it isn't a major change, and I concurred with it. I'm glad to get the bill on through. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1078. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Representatives Buck and Wilson. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, permission for, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Yep, the motion to concur is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1078 as amended.
The question before the House is the repassage of House Bill 1078 as amended. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, House Bill 1078 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1035.
House Bill 1035 by Representatives Rich and Roberts, all Senators Woodward and Janal, concerning an increase in the flexibility to set fees for electrical inspections that are not conducted by the state.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1035.
Please proceed. Representative Rich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After this bill left the House, union and builders realized the bigger issue that we had, not cap the multiplier. The number that is used for homes over 1,500 square feet and commercial projects over 2,000. And after several negotiations between stakeholder groups, they landed on a multiplier of 8. The base fee was bumped from $115 to $120. The multiplier had been 10 in the past, so the new lower multiplier of 8 will bring the fees down. And I ask for your support on this small change.
Is there any further discussion? The question before us is before the House is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1035. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Harrod, Hooton, Humphrey, Garnett, McKean, Tipper. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes and 2 no votes and 1 excused, the motion to concur is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1035 as amended.
The question before the House is the repassage of House Bill 1035 as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Caraveo, please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 excused, House Bill 1035 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1191.
House Bill 1191, Representative Varno, Senator Donovan, concerning the ability of a farm stand to be operated by principal use side of any sized land area, regardless of whether the site has been zoned by a local government for agricultural operations.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to concur with the Senate amendment.
Please proceed.
Pardon me? In the Senate, the Colorado Department of Health and Environment wanted to get an amendment on there to absolutely make completely sure that this bill, other than changing the size of the land available for a farm stand, did not impact any other standing health and safety bills or statutes that we have. So we said sure.
The question before the House is to concur with Senate amendments. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Representative Wilson. Please close the machine. With 53 aye votes, 11 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1191 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1191 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes and 1 excused, House Bill 1191 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Hold on just a second. What? Please close the machine. That brings us to announcements and introductions. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is somebody who's a member of this body who I absolutely love and adore, and we missed her birthday. So if I can get the Capitol Choir.
Got a singer for the choir today.
Yeah.
Me.
You missed a birthday. I know. Oh, awesome.
Who's playing drums? Are you playing drums?
Don't you run away, Representative Lewis. Okay.
Same age.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Representative Lewis. Happy birthday to you.
Any other announcements? Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Public Health Care and Human Services Committee, we will see you in House Committee Room 107 to hear two bills, Senate Bill 63 and Senate Bill 1. 10 minutes post gavel coming down on the gavel stump. See you in committee.
Any other announcements and introductions? Going once, going twice. Majority Leader Garnett. Oh, yes. Reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Education, after shares the merits of the committees following. Senate Bill 94 be referred favorably to the Committee on Legislative Counsel. Senate Bill 129 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Finance, after shares the merits of the committees following. Senate Bill 1220, House Bill 1228 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 138 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Judiciary, after shares the merits of the committees following. House Bill 1219 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1250 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 168 be referred favorably to the Committee on Legal Services. Committee on Rural Affairs and Agriculture, after consideration of the merits of the committees following. Senate Bill 147 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 148 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs, after consideration of the merits of the committees following. Senate Bill, House Bill 1229 be amended as follows and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1232 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the following bills be scheduled for the general order second reading calendar for Monday, March 25th. House Bill 1219, House Bill 1232, Senate Bill 129, Senate Bill 138, Senate Bill 147, and Senate Bill 148.
Seeing no objection, the bills will be calendared as requested by the Majority Leader. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will be in recess till later today.